If pain had a shape, it would surely be the fine, cold, and piercing light refracted by the priceless Bohemian crystal chandelier hanging from the ceiling of the banquet hall at this very moment. I stood in the center of the hall, surrounded by gentlemen in tailored suits and ladies with radiant smiles. The air was filled with the scent of top-tier champagne and expensive woody perfumes, yet all I felt was a bone-deep chill, a cold that seeped from the marrow, carrying a sticky, skin-corroding sensation. Lin Qingwu, kneel. The speaker stood right in front of me, dressed in a perfectly tailored dark grey three-piece suit, his shirt buttoned meticulously to the top, exuding an aloof and distant aura. That was my husband, the head of the Fu conglomerate, Fu Chengju, on his face, which the media had praised as carved by the hand of God. There was not a trace of marital affection at this moment, only a chilling disgust. Brother Chengju, forget it. Sister Qingwu surely didn't mean it. Even though I might never be able to dance ballet again, I don't want to see you two arguing over me. Su Miao sat in her wheelchair, fragile as a white lotus that could wither at any moment. In her tear-filled eyes, there was a provocation only I could see. Did you hear that? Fu Chengju took a step forward, his overwhelming presence forcing me to retreat half a step. Miao Miao is pleading for you, but the upbringing of the Fu family cannot tolerate a woman as malicious as you. When you pushed her down the stairs, did you ever think about the dance shoes she holds as dear as her life? I curled my lips in self-mockery, my hand instinctively covering my still flat abdomen. There, 2 tiny lives had yet to take shape. Fu Chengju, I've told you many times, I didn't break the surveillance camera, and I didn't push her. My voice trembled, but my back remained straight. She fell down the stairs herself. To frame me, she was even willing to risk her own leg. Who do you think is truly more ruthless? Slap. A crisp slap echoed through the entire banquet hall. My face was struck to the side, a burning pain instantly covering half of it, accompanied by a ringing in my ears. A wave of suppressed gasps rose around me, followed by whispers of disdain. My goodness, Mrs. Fu is actually that kind of person, unable to tolerate even her sworn sister. I heard the Lin family has long been in decline. She's just clinging to him because of the old marriage contract. Mr. Fu doesn't love her at all. Looking at her, she deserves to kneel. She's too vicious. Fu Chengju withdrew his hand, his eyes as cold as a frozen lake. Lin Qingwu, my patience is limited. Kneel down and apologize to Miao Miao. Otherwise, the last bit of the Lin family's foundation will vanish from the capital tomorrow. I looked up at him sharply. The Lin family, that was the last thing my grandfather left behind, and the reason I had been humbling myself to please the Fu family all along. He knew exactly where my weakness lay, and he struck with more precision than anyone else. I looked at Su Miao, who was hiding behind Fu Chengju, giving me an extremely covert, triumphant smile. A wave of soreness washed over my knees. I closed my eyes, tears streaming down my swollen cheeks. For the sake of those 2 unborn children, for the sake of my grandfather's legacy, I slowly bent my knees in front of everyone, at this banquet that was supposed to celebrate our 3rd wedding anniversary. With a loud thud, my knees hit the hard marble floor. At that moment, I heard the sound of my own dignity shattering, like cheap porcelain. I'm sorry, Miss Su, it was me who pushed you. I lowered my head, my voice so hoarse it was almost inaudible. Louder. Fu Chengju looked down at me coldly, as if I were an ant. I'm sorry, I cried out with all my heart. Only then did Su Miao pretend to be flustered and try to help me up. Sister Qingwu, please get up. Brother Chengju, don't be like this. I can't bear it. Fu Chengju took her hand, his tone instantly softening with a tenderness I had once dreamed of but now found utterly repulsive. She deserved it. Miao Miao, since she's admitted her mistake, let's put this behind us for now. Come, I'll take you to rest first. He led Su Miao away, surrounded by admirers like a moon among stars, without sparing a single glance for me, his wife. Kneeling on the ground in utter disgrace, the guests dispersed like a receding tide, leaving in 2s and 3s with mocking smiles. I tried to push myself up from the cold floor, but a sharp, stabbing pain suddenly shot through my abdomen. My face turned deathly pale as I clutched the edge of the table, beads of cold sweat dripping down in large drops. Baby, my baby. I trembled as I reached for the phone in my pocket and dialed Fu Chengzhou's number. I'm sorry, the number you have dialed is currently busy. I tried again, but the call was hung up on the 3rd attempt. The person who answered was Su Miao, Qingwu. Brother Chengju is applying medicine for me right now. He said he doesn't want to hear your voice tonight. You should just obediently go back to that cold villa and reflect on yourself. Su Miao chuckled lightly and hung up the phone. Outside, a heavy rain had started at some point. I don't know how I made my way out of the Fu Corporation building. The rain instantly drenched me completely. I drove the Maserati that Fu Chengju had given me, a symbol of status but always devoid of warmth, like a madwoman, speeding through the rain. The pain in my abdomen grew increasingly intense, as if something was slipping away. The cross-sea bridge ahead lay like a dormant dragon in the heavy rain, my vision blurred with tears and rain, as scenes from the past 3 years replayed in my mind. To be a good Mrs. Fu, I gave up my once proud identity as a hacker, abandoned all social connections, and confined myself in that cage, waiting for him to come home. And what did I get in return? Public humiliation, and his refusal to save me when I was in desperate need. Fu Chengju, since you think my death would bring you relief, I'll grant your wish. I dialed the last phone call, this time to old Lin, the Fu family's butler. I knew he would definitely tell Fu Chengju. Old Lin, tell Fu Chengju, is my life enough to repay Su Miao? With that, I abruptly turned the steering wheel hard, and the front of the car violently crashed through the guardrail of the cross-sea bridge. At the moment the car was suspended in mid-air, I felt no fear. Instead, I experienced an unprecedented sense of relief. I pressed a hidden modified button under the dashboard, one I had prepared half a month ago. Once triggered, a miniature escape capsule would rapidly eject from the car, while a prearranged localized explosion would be set off, creating the illusion of a fatal crash. Boom! A violent burst of flames erupted in the rainy night, illuminating the pitch-black sea. The wreckage of the car shell plunged into the turbulent waves and was instantly swept away without a trace. Inside the escape capsule, I felt the icy seawater engulf me completely. Fu Chengju, from this moment on, Lin Qingwu is dead. When we meet again, I will make you destroy the Fu family, the thing you care about most, with your own hands, and force you to kneel before me, begging for a single glance. Deep in the ocean, my consciousness gradually faded, but before closing my eyes, I seemed to see a blinding light rapidly approaching in my direction. Who is that? The icy seawater, like countless tiny needles, seeped through the gaps of the escape pod, stinging every inch of my nearly numb skin. I felt myself falling, as if the abyss-like sea was about to swallow me whole. The sharp pain in my abdomen, intensified by the violent impact and the cold, churned like a stormy sea. That tearing sensation reminded me that I wasn't just fighting for death, I was fighting for life. For the child in my womb, I had to hold on. Just before my consciousness plunged into complete darkness, I vaguely saw an all-black, unmarked private submarine cutting through the waves like a ghost. The moment its hatch opened, a slender, bony hand grabbed the collar of my clothes with a deathly grip. That hand was scorching hot, the only warmth I felt on that cold, rainy night. When I opened my eyes again, my nostrils were filled with the strong smell of disinfectant and the salty, fishy scent of seaweed. I found myself lying on a mobile hospital bed, the shadowless lamp above glaring painfully into my eyes. In my ears, a chaotic mix of German and English voices intertwined, accompanied by the cold clatter of medical instruments. The patient has multiple fractures, accompanied by severe hemorrhage, and the fetal position is extremely unstable. Save the mother or the child. Save both. That's Mr. Gu's order. Mr. Gu. With great effort, I turned my head to the side. Through the translucent frosted glass of the operating room, I saw an exceptionally tall and straight silhouette. He stood with his back to me, a lit cigarette held between his fingers, but he wasn't smoking, he was just gazing out at the dark, primeval forest outside the window. That silhouette exuded a noble and deadly aura that could not be concealed even in the darkness. An overwhelming wave of excruciating pain washed over me. I clutched the bedsheet tightly, my nails digging into my flesh. Lin Qingwu, you must survive. I gritted my teeth and said to myself, Fu Chengju isn't dead yet. Su Miao hasn't descended into hell. You can't die here. The surgery lasted a full 14 hours when 2 faint but resilient cries echoed through the humble private clinic. I collapsed on the operating table, drenched in sweat. The nurse brought the 2 wrinkled little ones to me, and I trembled as I kissed their foreheads. That was my redemption. And also the trump card for my revenge. Half a month later, hidden in the border mountains of Southeast Asia, this private clinic is actually a geek base disguised as a medical facility. The person who saved me is Jiyu Chenhan, the top financial tycoon who was once known as the living king of hell in the capital's elite circles but suddenly vanished 3 years ago. He sat on the single sofa across from me, toying with a dark golden lighter in his hand, his gaze as cold as frost. Lin Qingwu, wife of the president of the Fu Group, died 3 weeks ago after falling from the Cross-Sea Bridge. With no remains found, he lifted his eyelids, his tone devoid of any emotion. You went to such lengths to stage that explosion just to beg me to save you. Leaning against the headboard, my face pale but my eyes sharp, I replied, Mr. Gu, I will repay you for saving my life. But I didn't come here to beg for your help, I came to do business with you. Driven out of the capital by the Fu family and the collateral branches of the Gu family, hiding in these remote mountains and forests, are you really content with this? Jiyu Chenhan's slender fingers paused slightly, his eyes darkening. What are you trying to say? I picked up an old laptop from the bedside table, my fingers dancing rapidly across the keyboard. Green code flashed wildly on the screen, and within 10 seconds, the core firewall of the Fu Group's internal financial system was breached. I am Jay, I said calmly, looking at him. 3 years ago, I was the top hacker who infiltrated the North American banking system and walked away unscathed. A flicker of interest finally appeared in Jiyu Chenhan's eyes. He stood up, walked over to me, and leaned in close. That cool, woody scent instantly enveloped me, carrying an overwhelming sense of aggression. If Fu Chengju knew that the delicate vine he thought was clinging to him was actually the formidable Jay who could turn the world upside down, I wonder what expression he would have. He doesn't need to know, I sneered. He only needs to know that his empire is crumbling. At this moment, the Fu family in the capital was in complete chaos. Old Lin, the butler, stood trembling before Fu Chengzhou's desk, holding a salvage report in his hands. Mr. Fu, after half a month of underwater search and rescue, aside from car door fragments and one of Miss Lin's high heels, nothing else was found. The police said, the currents are too strong, and the person might have already been eaten by fish. Get out. Fu Chengju violently swept all the documents off the table, his eyes bloodshot. For the past half month, he hadn't returned home. Su Miao had called countless times, whining about her leg pain, but he had only coldly hung up. He didn't even know why he was so angry. That hollow feeling in his heart was like a massive black hole, slowly devouring his sanity. Just then, his private email suddenly received an anonymous message. Here is a video attachment. In the video, Su Miao was practicing in front of a mirror how to fall more convincingly as a victim before pushing me down the stairs. She even injected a local anesthetic into her own leg. This can't be. Fu Chengju stared at the screen, veins bulging on the back of his hand. Immediately after, a second email popped up, containing classified evidence of Fu Corporation's overseas trade involvement in money laundering. The signature was just a single, arrogant letter. J, find out. Find out who this J is. Fu Chengju roared at his assistant, his voice hoarse. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, I closed my laptop, looked out at the tropical rainforest, and a cruel smile played at the corner of my mouth. Fu Chengju, this is just the appetizer. To completely erase the traces of Lin Qingwu, I underwent the facial microadjustment surgery provided by Jiyu Chenhan. Not a complete transformation, but a reshaping of my eye and brow contours that turned my originally cool and delicate demeanor into something sharp and bewitching. During those dark, endless days of rehabilitation training, I watched the video of me kneeling at that banquet every single day. Each time I watched it, my heart hardened a little more. Jiyu Chenhan would occasionally come to see me. He would personally feed me those bitter medicinal concoctions, his slender fingers occasionally brushing the corner of my lips, sending a strange shiver through me. Monon, he called me by the new name he had given me. Shenman, if you want to go back, I can send you back, but you must remember, from now on, you are Jiyu Chenhan's person. What Fu Chengju owes you, I want you to take back tenfold. I looked into his deep eyes and slowly took his hand. No, I want 100-fold. I want him to watch as the power, status, and reputation he values most turn to ashes. Bit by bit, 3 years later, a private jet from Bangkok landed at Capital Airport in Beijing. I wore a fiery red tailored trench coat, oversized sunglasses that covered half my face, and high heels that clicked crisply and powerfully against the tarmac. Behind me, 2 3-year-old boys in miniature black suits, each carrying a laptop bag, followed closely. One had the striking resemblance of Fu Chengzhou's features, yet carried the icy demeanor of Jiyu Chenhan. The other smiled just like me, but with a fox-like cunning hidden in his eyes. Mommy, the older one, Shen Ruihan, said coldly, is that scumbag who bullied you in the city ahead. The younger one, Shen Ruixing, licked his lollipop and spoke in a sweet, childish voice that was surprisingly sharp. Brother, should we hack all the traffic lights in the city first and give him a grand welcome? I reached out and pressed their heads down, gazing toward the distant forest of skyscrapers. No need to rush, the game has only just begun. Fu Chengju, Su Miao. The wind in the capital still carried a knife-like sharpness, yet it could no longer penetrate my long-frozen heart at this moment. The Fu group was in a state of extreme tension. Fu Chengju had not had an easy time over the past 3 years. He had grown more sinister, more ruthless, like a lone wolf trapped in an old dream. Rumor had it that he kept all of his ex-wife's belongings, yet in the business world, he had only intensified his predatory ways. Today was the bidding for the largest land parcel in the capital in recent years, the North Shore Land King. Fu Chengju was determined to win it, as it was the stretch of coastline Lin Qingwu had loved most in her lifetime. He wanted to build a private estate there called Mist Garden, a laughably sentimental gesture, as if laying a grave for the dead or putting on a show for the living. Inside the bidding hall, the crowd was bustling. Fu Chengju sat in the front row, his slender fingers tapping rhythmically on the armrest, his cool gaze sweeping across the room. Then, the door swung open, and a dazzling, almost brazen figure in red burst into everyone's view. I walked in 10-centimeter red-soled high heels, each step feeling as if I were treading on the Fu family's backbone. Behind me followed 8 elite bodyguards, all dressed in identical black suits, their presence commanding the entire scene. Who is that? I've never seen her before. That's Shen Man, the mysterious head of SK Venture Capital's Asia-Pacific region. I heard her achievements overseas over the past 3 years are enough to buy half of Beijing. Fu Chengzhou's back stiffened in that moment. When he turned his head to look at me, I clearly caught the violent tremor in his pupils. That face, which had always remained unflappable even in the face of a collapsing mountain, now showed a hint of shattered astonishment. Qing, his thin lips parted slightly, the name almost escaping his lips. I gracefully took my seat in the main position diagonally across from him, removed my sunglasses, and revealed a pair of sharp yet enchanting eyes. The newly added teardrop mole at the corner of my eye exuded an alluring yet distant charm. Without looking at him, I simply instructed the secretary beside me, the Shen group doesn't need to test the waters, show your hand directly. The bidding began, and Fu Chengju was frequently distracted. His deep eyes were fixed on me, trying to find the gentle, humble figure who would only kneel and beg for mercy on rainy nights. But what he saw was a queen who was decisive and ruthless at the negotiating table, capable of bankrupting her opponents with a smile. Fu Corporation bids 8 billion, Fu Chengzhou's assistant announced, his voice trembling. Without even looking up, I parted my red lips and said, 12 billion, cash payment. Immediate transfer. The room erupted in an uproar. Fu Chengju abruptly stood up, strode over to me in a few steps, bringing with him a cold, sharp scent that I had once known intimately but now found utterly repulsive. Lin Qingwu, is it you? His voice was hoarse to the extreme, carrying a hint of humble trembling. I slowly looked up, a professional, distant smile curling at the corner of my mouth, looking at him as if he were a stranger, a client. Mr. Fu, you've mistaken me for someone else. I am Shen Man from SK Venture Capital. If you're interested in this plot of land, you're welcome to come to my company to discuss the lease contract. However, my rent, I'm afraid you can't afford it. No, it's you. Fu Chengju reached out to grab my wrist, his movements urgent. Slap. I immediately slapped him back, the sound crisp and sharp, with the same force he had used to strike me 3 years ago in the banquet hall. Mr. Fu, please show some self-respect. I took the disinfectant wipe handed to me by the bodyguard and slowly wiped the hand that had just struck him. In the capital, no one dares to lay a hand on me. Shen Man, if you try it again, I won't hesitate to send Fu Corporation's stock price plummeting before the market opens tomorrow. At that moment, Su Miao hurried over in her high heels. Although she had stayed by Fu Chengzhou's side all these years, she had never managed to obtain a marriage certificate. When she saw my face, she let out a terrified scream and collapsed into Fu Chengzhou's arms. A ghost, Chengzhou, it's Lin Qingwu, she's back to claim her life. I watched Su Miao's face contorted with fear with a cold gaze. Feeling a surge of satisfaction in my heart, I stood up, walked gracefully to her, leaned down close to her ear, and whispered in a voice only the three of us could hear, "Miss Su, this is just the beginning. The kneeling you owe me, I will make you repay with the entire Su family." After saying that, I walked out of the hall without looking back. That evening, at the top-tier business cocktail party in the capital, Fu Chengzhou barged into my private room like a madman. He had been drinking, his tie was askew, and his eyes were frighteningly bloodshot. Jiyu Chenhan was sitting beside me, personally peeling a grape for me. "Shen Man, come with me." Fu Chengzhou tried to rush over but was firmly blocked by Jiyu Chenhan's bodyguards. Jiyu Chenhan set down the grape in his hand and slowly stood up. The unique aura of a top-tier elite instantly enveloped the entire room. He affectionately wrapped his arm around my waist and placed a light kiss on my temple. "Mr. Fu, trying to take my person in my own territory, do you think the Fu family's life is too long?" Jiyu Chenhan's voice was cool and restrained, yet it carried a bone-chilling coldness. Fu Chengzhou watched our intimate display, the wine glass in his hand shattering under his grip, blood dripping from between his fingers. "Jiyu Chenhan, was it you who saved her?" "No." I stepped out of Jiyu Chenhan's embrace. Smiling brightly and radiantly, "I saved Shen Man and killed Lin Qingwu." I walked up to Fu Chengzhou and slipped a cold lawyer's letter into his suit pocket. "President Fu, regarding the accident on the Cross-Sea Bridge 3 years ago, I have evidence here that the braking system of the Fu family's vehicle was tampered with. We'll see you in court." Watching Fu Chengzhou's face turn as pale as paper in an instant, I elegantly raised my wine glass and poured the crimson liquid all over his expensive leather shoes. "This glass is to commemorate the grievances I endured in that heavy rain." Then, I waved to the twins behind me. Eldest Bao Shenruihan, holding a tablet, looked up coldly at Fu Chengzhou, his identical dark eyes filled with nothing but disgust. "Mommy, is this old man the negative asset you mentioned? He looks average, has terrible taste, and I suggest we just close his account." Little treasure Shen Ruishing hid behind Jiyu Chenhan, making a funny face. "Big bad guy. You bully mommy, we're going to make you go broke." Fu Chengzhou stared at the two miniature versions of himself, feeling as if he had been struck by lightning, even forgetting to breathe. "My children," I sneered coldly, took the children's hands, and walked away side by side with Jiyu Chenhan, leaving only a resolute figure behind. "Fu Chengzhou, the gates of hell have opened. Please, come in." The Fu family's ancestral home still exudes that suffocating sense of antiquity and authority. Over the past 3 years, Su Miao has practically turned this place into her main battlefield, all to secure her position, constantly currying favor with the insatiably greedy old Mrs. Fu. But she doesn't realize that the more desperately she tries to hold on to something, the faster it slips away. I sit in the leather swivel chair on the top floor of SK Tower, my fingertips lightly tapping the desk. The screen displays Su Miao's recent fund flows. To maintain her socialite persona, she has secretly embezzled a significant amount of public funds from the Fu family's investment company. She even went behind Fu Chengzhou's back to set up several high-risk leveraged projects overseas. "Mr. Shen, Su Miao has taken the bait." The secretary handed over a top-secret investment proposal. She heard that our SK is preparing a cross-border energy project called Deep Sea Light, with an expected return rate of up to 300%. She's desperately trying to pull strings to get a piece of the pie. I sneered. "A 300% return, that's the toll to hell. Let her in. Also, send that gift to Fu Chengzhou." An hour later, in the CEO's office of the Fu Group, Fu Chengzhou pushed aside the mountain of documents and tremblingly opened an anonymous package. Inside, there was no letter, only an old voice recorder and a yellowed backstage pass to a banquet hall from 3 years ago. He pressed the play button. "Meow meow, are you really going to do this? What if you break your leg?" That was the voice of old Lin. The butler. "If I don't break my leg, how will brother Chengzhou feel sorry for me? If I don't damage the surveillance, How will that bitch Lin Qingwu defend herself? The Lin family should have disappeared long ago. She's been occupying the position of Mrs. Fu for too long. I want her to die on that rainy night. In the recording, Su Miao's voice was sharp and frenzied, carrying a chilling calculation. Fu Chengzhou's recording pen clattered to the floor, his cold, noble face instantly twisted. The blood in his eyes almost dripping out. 3 years ago, it was because he believed Su Miao's one-sided story that he personally shattered Lin Qingwu's last shred of dignity, driving her to jump into the sea and end her life. Su Miao, he gritted out the name through clenched teeth, his voice hoarse as if sandpaper had scraped over it. Meanwhile, Su Miao was lost in her dream of becoming the matriarch of a wealthy family. Behind Fu Chengzhou's back, she secretly mortgaged several core properties under the name of the Fu family's elderly matriarch and invested all the proceeds into the deep-sea light trap I had set. In fact, to celebrate the massive profits that were soon to be hers, she even made a high-profile appearance at a private auction house, attempting to bid on the top-tier jade necklace that Lin Qingwu had loved most during her lifetime, the Eternal Life, which had come from the Jiyu family. Inside the auction house, the lights shone brilliantly. Su Miao sat in the front row, wearing an expensive diamond necklace around her neck, her face filled with pride. 10 million, she raised her paddle, determined to win. 30 million, I sat in the VIP box upstairs, my voice echoing throughout the venue through the microphone, separated by one-way glass. Su Miao suddenly looked up, her gaze fixed intently on the direction of the second floor. Though she couldn't see me, she must have recognized my voice. Shen Man, are you determined to go against me? She shrieked in a fit of rage. 50 million, brother Chengju will cover it for me. How much money do you have to burn with me? 100 million, I said calmly, pressing another button in my hand as I spoke. That's the security alarm of the auction house. A few seconds later, a group of uniformed investigators rushed into the hall and directly seized Su Miao's wrist. Miss Su Miao, we have received a report that you are suspected of illegally embezzling funds from the Fu Group and illegally mortgaging state-owned assets under the name of Mrs. Fu. Please come with us. Su Miao's face instantly turned pale, and she struggled frantically. What are you doing? Let go of me. Brother Chengju, save me. Fu Chengju had indeed come. He was dressed in a black trench coat, emerging slowly from the shadows, his footsteps heavy as if dragging iron chains. He didn't spare Su Miao a glance, but instead raised his head and looked toward the private room where I was. At that moment, our gazes seemed to collide through the glass. Chengju, hurry and tell them that money was given to me by you, right? Su Miao, as if clutching at a lifeline, rushed toward Fu Chengju. Fu Chengju lowered his head, looking at the woman he had protected for 3 years. His eyes as cold as if he were staring at a corpse. He suddenly raised his hand and slapped Su Miao hard, without a trace of mercy. This slap was even heavier than the one he gave me back then. Su Miao was struck so hard that she fell to the ground, blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. Completely stunned, I heard that recording. Fu Chengzhou's voice was terrifyingly calm. Su Miao, you truly disgust me. For everything you've taken from the Lin family, I'll make you give it all back. As for what you owe Qingwu over these 3 years, I'll make you repay it slowly in prison. No, brother Chengju, please let me explain. Take her away. Fu Chengju waved his hand coldly, watching Su Miao being dragged away like a dead dog. I slowly descended the stairs. The lights of the auction hall shone on me, making me look like a judge. Old Mrs. Fu also arrived. Seeing the confiscated property deeds, she trembled with anger and pointed at Fu Chengju, shouting, "You unfilial son, for the sake of a dead woman, are you going to ruin the Fu family? Hurry and save Su Miao. All that money is under her name." I stopped in front of the old lady, my red lips curling slightly, my eyes icy cold. "Don't worry, madam, that money is now in SK's account. Want it back? Sure, exchange it for 15% of the Fu Group's shares. You vixen." The old lady tried to reach out to hit me. Jiyu Chenhan appeared behind me at some point. He grabbed the old lady's wrist and gave it a light flick, yet the force was astonishingly strong. His cold, ethereal face was filled with disdain. "Old madam, you don't have the right to lay a hand on my person." Jiyu Chenhan wrapped his arm around my shoulder and, under Fu Chengzhou's almost blazing gaze, led me away with grace. "Shen Man," Fu Chengju roared from behind, "what will it take for you to forgive me?" I stopped in my tracks, not looking back. Mr. Fu, the law may forgive you, but as for me, I only want to see you lose everything, kneeling in that banquet hall from all those years ago, confessing to the empty air until you die. The suspense has only just begun. Su Miao going to prison is just the first step. The financial black hole within the Fu Group is the real gift I'm giving to the Fu family, outside the floor-to-ceiling windows on the top floor of SK Tower. The neon lights of the entire capital city looked like shattered diamonds scattered across the ground. I swirled the laffit in my glass, the crimson liquid leaving streaks of residue on the sides, much like my current state of mind, cold, sharp, and clear. Mr. Shun, the Fu Group's capital chain has been broken. The secretary handed me a freshly printed market analysis report, unable to conceal the excitement in his voice, due to Su Miao's embezzlement of public funds leading to prosecution. It has triggered a credit crisis for 3 of Fu Group's listed companies. The banks have already stopped renewing their loans. Right now, their only lifeline is the mortgage financing for that piece of land we own on the North Shore. I took a sip of wine, the bitterness spreading across the tip of my tongue before transforming into a lingering sweetness. What about Jiyu Chunhan's moves over there, Mr. Jiyu has already cut off all of Fu Group's overseas raw material supply channels. Now, the top 5 mining giants globally have received a joint ultimatum from SK and the Jiyu Group. Anyone who dares to supply Fu Group will be our enemy. I nodded in satisfaction. I've been planning this siege for 3 years, waiting for this very moment. A sudden flash of lightning streaked across the window, followed by the low rumble of thunder. Summers in the capital were always like this. Rainstorms arrived without warning, much like the night 3 years ago when I jumped into the sea. Mr. Shen, Fu Chengju is downstairs, the secretary said hesitantly. He's been standing there for an hour. The rain is heavy, and he doesn't have an umbrella. He insists on seeing you. I stood up and walked to the window, looking down, through dozens of floors and the blur of the rain. I could still make out the small black dot at the entrance of the building. Once the untouchable, arrogant tycoon who wouldn't even spare me a glance, he now stood humbly in the pouring rain, letting it wash away all his pride and dignity. Let him come up, I said coldly, uttering just 4 words. 10 minutes later, the office door was pushed open. Fu Chengju walked in. He was drenched from head to toe, his expensive suit clinging tightly to his body, his hair disheveled and hanging over his forehead. Water droplets continuously dripped down his cold, chiseled jawline, leaving dark stains on the luxurious carpet. His face was pale, almost translucent, and only his eyes, bloodshot and filled with red veins, were fixed intently on me. Shen Man, or should I call you Qingwu? His voice was hoarse and strained, carrying a broken tremor. I sat in the large leather chair behind the desk, my posture lazy yet dignified, not even bothering to stand up. President Fu, SK's office is not a shelter. Looking like this, you'll only dirty my carpet. Fu Chengju let out a self-mocking laugh, one filled with utter despair. He took a sudden step forward but was immediately blocked by the bodyguards standing nearby. Qingwu, I know I was wrong. Su Miao has already been imprisoned, and she'll never get out for the rest of her life. I've consolidated all of the Fu family's overseas assets under your name. Just stop, just come back. I'd even give you my life if you wanted. He pulled out a transfer agreement from his coat, one corner dampened by rain, his hands trembling uncontrollably. I took the agreement, didn't even glance at it, and tossed it directly into the shredder beside me. Fu Chengju, do you really think I care about your assets now? I stood up, walked around the desk, and stopped in front of him. The sound of my high heels clicking against the wooden floorboards seemed to strike right at his heart with every step. Back then, when I knelt in the banquet hall, I begged you to believe me just once, to look at the child in my womb. What did you do? I raised my hand and jabbed hard at his icy chest. You hung up on my plea for help. You went to tend to the woman who destroyed my entire family, and now you come to talk to me about assets, about forgiveness. I'm sorry, Qingwu, I'm sorry. His legs suddenly gave way, and he truly knelt before me. That man, the coldest and proudest in the capital, the husband who once forced me to my knees, now slammed his knees heavily onto the floor. He clutched desperately at the hem of my skirt, like a child who had lost the whole world, weeping uncontrollably. I didn't know the child was still there. I thought I had killed them with my own hands. At that moment, The side door of the office opened. Gu Chenhan, dressed in a black silk robe and holding 2 cups of hot coffee, walked out unhurriedly. He walked over to me as if no one else was there, naturally wrapping his arm around my waist and pulling me away from Fu Chengzhou's touch. President Fu, you're kneeling in the wrong place. Gu Chenhan lowered his head, looking down at Fu Chengzhou, who was kneeling on the ground. His face, even colder than Fu Chengzhou's, carried a hint of almost cruel gentleness. Man is my fiancé now, and your child will call me dad in the future. As for Fu Corporation, tomorrow at noon, I will launch a hostile takeover on time. Fu Chengzhou suddenly looked up, his eyes filled with jealousy and anger that seemed ready to burst into flames as he stared at Gu Chenhan's hand resting on my waist. Gu Chenhan, you're taking advantage of someone in a vulnerable position. The one taking advantage is you, Fu Chengzhou. Gu Chenhan sneered, gently placing the coffee cup on the table with a crisp sound. 3 years ago, you treated her like dirt. 3 years later, you don't even have the right to be her opponent. Gu Chenhan turned to look at me, his gaze instantly softening with affection. Man, the rain is getting heavier. Go home early to be with the children. Leave this to me. Okay. I nodded and took the coffee he handed me. The warmth spread from my fingertips throughout my body, dispelling all the chill. I turned around and walked toward the door. As I passed by Fu Chengzhou, I stopped in my tracks. Without looking at him, I softly spoke into the void. Fu Chengzhou, this is just the first step. I will make you watch as the Fu family rots away bit by bit, and let you taste what it means to wish for death but be unable to die. Oh, by the way, remember to attend the charity gala tomorrow on time. I have prepared a big gift to present in front of all of the capital. Fu Chengzhou slumped to the ground, rainwater trickling down his face, indistinguishable from tears. I walked out of the office, with Gu Chenhan following behind, draping a thick coat over my shoulders. Manny, what do you want to do next? I'm going to tear off the Fu family's last fig leaf at tomorrow's banquet. I looked at my reflection in the elevator mirror, my eyes as cold as ice. I want the whole world to know how the Fu family devoured the Lin family. Suspense fermented in the rainy night, Fu Chengzhou thought. Kneeling could win everything back, but he didn't know that the real judgment had only just begun. The rain in the capital fell all night, unable to wash away the filth hidden deep within the city's wealthy families. The following evening, luxury cars gathered outside the capital's grand auditorium. This was the year's most magnificent charity gala, and the execution ground I had meticulously chosen. Although the Fu group was deeply mired in crisis, Fu Chengzhou still appeared to maintain a final semblance of dignity. He had changed into a pitch-black suit, his face as cold as a lifeless stone statue, enveloped in an almost despairing aura of solemnity. I entered the venue arm in arm with Gu Chenhan. Tonight, I wore a deep purple backless fishtail gown, with the longevity jadeite I had acquired from the auction house adorning my slender neck. That rich shade of green set off my skin, making it as white as snow, breathtakingly beautiful. Miss Shen, Mr. Gu, truly a perfect match of talent and beauty. I heard Mr. Fu knelt outside SK Tower all night last night. TSK, what took him so long? The buzz of conversation hummed like flies. Fu Chengzhou stood in the corner, his fingertips gripping the wine glass tightly, his gaze burning into me like fire midway through the banquet. The highlight of the evening arrived, the charity auction and speeches segment. The host enthusiastically invited me on stage as a special guest to deliver a speech. Mr. Shen, I heard you're donating 100 million to the Rural Maternal and Child Health Fund today. Do you have anything you'd like to say to everyone? I took the microphone and stood at the very center of the spotlight. Instead of looking at my notes, I scanned the audience below. Fu Chengzhou was staring at me, his eyes filled with a humble hope, as if desperately clinging to the last shred of dignity I might leave him. Before I begin my speech, I'd like to invite everyone to watch a glimpse of the truth behind charity. I snapped my fingers. The massive LED screen at the center of the auditorium instantly lit up. The footage wasn't a public service announcement, but rather a dim, grainy surveillance recording in the video from 3 years ago at the Fu family anniversary celebration backstage. Su Miao was grinning menacingly into the mirror, holding a scalpel. She calmly made a deep, bloody gash on her own calf. This injury should be enough to make Chengzhou hate Lin Qingwu to death, right, Su Miao? In the video muttered to herself, Then she dialed a number. Hey, old Lin, is the surveillance turned off? Good, that's good. Remember to tell Chengju that it was Lin Qingwu who pushed me. The audience fell into a dead silence instantly, followed by an eruption of thunderous discussion. Oh my god. So the pushing incident back then was actually self-harm and a frame-up. This Su Miao is really ruthless. Doesn't that mean Mr. Fu? Before anyone could react, the video cut to a different scene. It was a secret conversation at the Fu family's old mansion. Grandma Fu's kind face twisted on the screen. Chengju, that daughter of the Lin family, can't be allowed to stay. She's holding on to the original documents of the Lin family's share transfer from back then. Only if she disappears can the Lin family's assets be rightfully merged into the Fu Corporation. As for that rainy night car accident, don't worry about it, old Lin will handle it cleanly. The scene switched again, this time to a dashcam perspective from the Cross-Sea Bridge 3 years ago. A black car was seen violently ramming into Lin Qingwu's vehicle, while in the background, the cold tone of Fu Chengju hanging up the distress call echoed. No, this can't be true. The wine glass in Fu Chengzhou's hand crashed to the floor, shattering into pieces. Staggering, he tried to rush onto the stage. Qingwu, turn it off. Turn it off. Why did you turn it off? I looked down at him coldly, my voice echoing through every corner via the speakers. Fu Chengju, aren't you the one who values evidence the most? This is the evidence you wanted. Just then, the doors of the venue were pushed open once again. Several uniformed police officers walked in, followed by a man who looked haggard and filled with fear. It was the long-missing butler. Old Lin, Mr. Fu, I confess. Old Lin fell to his knees with a thud, tears streaming down his face. 3 years ago, I followed the old lady's orders and tampered with Miss Lin's car. Miss Su knew about it at the time, and she even gave me $1 million to keep quiet. Mr. Fu, I'm sorry to Miss Lin. The entire room erupted in an uproar, the reporter's camera flashes nearly blinding Fu Chengju. I descended the steps one by one, walking up to Fu Chengju. He looked like a puppet drained of its soul, slumped dejectedly against the table. Fu Chengju, you keep claiming to love Lin Qingwu, yet you wouldn't even bother to investigate, for that flimsy, full of holes lie. You forced your pregnant wife to kneel. Not only did you push her into the sea with your own hands, but you also tried to swallow every last penny of her family's wealth. I pulled a stack of photos from my handbag and flung them hard into his face. In the photo, there was the miserable sight of Su Miao frantically scratching the walls in prison, as well as her disgraceful state when she was caught trying to escape by undergoing plastic surgery at the airport. Su Miao has already confessed. Not only did she frame me, but she is also involved in multiple cases of commercial fraud and intentional harm. And you, Fu Chengju, as an accomplice and a protector, do you think you can walk away unscathed? Qingwu, Fu Chengju reached out, wanting to touch the hem of my clothes. Don't touch me. My eyes were filled with disgust. Fu Chengju, you found out I have children and wanted to use them as bargaining chips to remarry. Those are my children. They carry the surname Shen, not Fu. Just as the atmosphere reached its breaking point, the large screen changed once again. 2 exceptionally handsome children dressed in little black suits appeared on the screen. The older child, Shen Ruihan, was playing with a Rubik's Cube, his eyes reflecting a calmness beyond his years. Mr. Fu, the older child addressed the camera, his childish voice carrying an unexpected authority. I am Shen Ruihan. Thank you for sparing our lives back then, allowing us to grow up under Dad Gu's care. From today onward, I will take over all the core firewalls of the Fu Group. Unless you declare bankruptcy, every cent of assets flowing overseas will be frozen. The younger child, Shen Ruixing, made a playful face beside him. Bad daddy, the glass of wine you just threw away could have bought 10,000 school bags for the younger brothers and sisters in the mountains. According to Mommy, you're so wasteful. Fu Chengju stared at the 2 living children who bore an uncanny resemblance to him, feeling as if his heart had been struck by a heavy hammer. They were his flesh and blood, the future he had once personally pushed into the abyss. Phut, a mouthful of blood gushed from Fu Chengzhou's mouth, staining his snow-white shirt. He staggered and collapsed heavily to the ground, his eyes fixed on the children on the large screen, filled with regret and anguish. President Fu, call an ambulance. The scene was chaotic. Jiyu Chenhan walked over to me, his warm, large hand resting on my shoulder, offering me the most solid support. Man, are you tired? He asked softly. I took a deep breath, watching the man who had once caused me unbearable pain being carried away like a stray dog. There was not a ripple of emotion in my heart, only a desolate sense of relief that my long-awaited revenge had finally been achieved. I'm not tired. I turned my head and gave him a faint smile. Ji-Yu Chenhan, take me home. The children are still waiting for us. The top private kindergarten in the capital, resembling a dreamlike European castle, had its tranquil afternoon shattered by the roar of several black Rolls-Royces. The first thing Fu Chengju did after waking up in the hospital was to ignore the doctor's warnings and drive here like a madman. His chest was still wrapped in blood-stained bandages, a lingering injury from the violent vomiting caused by his intense rage, but he couldn't care less. The children, they were his only salvation in this desolate life. Shen Ruihan, Shen Ruxing, he stood at the entrance of the kindergarten, his voice trembling, his lips tinged with an unnatural bluish-purple from extreme weakness. It was just after school, and the older child, Shen Ruihan, was holding the younger one, Shen Ruixing, by the hand. They both carried small computer bags printed with the SK logo as they walked out unhurriedly. The two children were as exquisite as little princes stepping out of an oil painting, yet the moment they saw Fu Chengju, they came to a synchronized halt in those dark eyes, identical to Fu Chengzhou's. There was no joy of reunion, only a near-cruel indifference. Little ones, I am. Fu Chengju crouched down, trying to meet their gaze, his voice humble to the point of being almost pitiful. I'm your dad. Dad. The younger child, Shen Ruixing, tilted his head, pulled a lollipop from his pocket, and licked it disdainfully. Big bad guy. Did you cough up so much blood last night that it messed with your brain? My dad is right behind us, buying ice cream. For my mommy, he's way better looking than you, and not nearly as old. Fu Chengzhou's heart felt as if it were being torn back and forth by a blunt knife, the pain almost suffocating. Xinga, I really am. 3 years ago, it was Dad who wronged your mother, but I will make it up to you. I will give you the entire Fu family. What do we want with the Fu family? Eldest Bao Shen Ruihan coldly interrupted him. He pulled out a specially designed ultra-thin tablet from his bag, his slender fingers swiftly gliding across the screen, his movements surprisingly reminiscent of Fu Chengzhou's demeanor during business negotiations. Mr. Fu, according to the internal financial model of the Fu Corporation that I just hacked into, your current debt ratio has reached 140%. The so-called Fu family you speak of is now nothing more than a crumbling shell, offering us a nearly bankrupt, worthless asset as compensation. Do you think the Shen family genes lack intelligence? Fu Chengju was stunned. He looked at this child, barely over 3 years old, whose words were filled with professional financial terminology and hacking skills. Hannah, you, don't call me Hannah. Shen Ruihan closed the tablet, his gaze sharp. Where were you when my mother was kneeling in the heavy rain? Where were you when my mother jumped into the sea in despair? Now you think you can just pick up the pieces with a title. Dream on. Just then, a silver Bentley slowly pulled over by the roadside. Ji-Yu Chenhan pushed the car door open and stepped out, holding 2 boxes of exquisite ice cream in one hand, while his other arm naturally wrapped around my waist as I got out of the car after him. Sorry to keep you waiting, my darlings. Ji-Yu Chenhan's voice was low and gentle. He walked straight toward the 2 children as if he hadn't noticed Fu Chengju at all. Daddy Ji-Yu, little Bao, Shen Ruixing, squealed and threw himself over, wrapping his arms tightly around Ji-Yu Chenhan's leg. I want the strawberry flavor. There was a strange uncle trying to get close to us earlier, so annoying. Ji-Yu Chenhan picked up little Bao with one hand and gently patted Da Bao's head with the other. Only then did he turn around to meet Fu Chengzhou's eyes, which seemed almost bloodshot. Mr. Fu, it doesn't seem very dignified to pester my fiancé and children. A triumphant smile played at the corner of Ji-Yu Chenhan's lips, but it didn't reach his eyes. It was all challenge. Ji-Yu Chenhan, let them go, they are my own flesh and blood. Fu Chengju roared as he charged forward, only to be directly blocked by Ji-Yu Chenhan's accompanying top-tier legal team. The lead legal representative handed over a document with an expressionless face. Mr. Fu, this is a restraining order drafted on behalf of MS. Shen Man. Given the severe physical and emotional harm you inflicted on MS. Shen 3 years ago, as well as your current unstable mental state, The court has preliminarily ruled to prohibit you from approaching within 500 meters of Ms.Shun and her 2 young children. Otherwise, we will sue you for unlawful harassment, a restraining order. Fu Chengju stared at the thin sheet of paper stamped with an official seal, his laughter more bitter than tears. Qingwu, you actually used a restraining order against me. I stepped out from behind Jiyu Chenhan, my gaze calm and unruffled. Fu Chengju, stop being so self-absorbed. The children have already taken the surname Shin, and legally, they have no connection to you whatsoever. If you insist on causing trouble, I won't hesitate to send the complete, unedited video of you forcing me to kneel at that anniversary celebration 3 years ago to every one of your creditors and business partners. I sneered coldly, taking Dabao's hand. Let's go, Shun Ruihan, Shun Ruixing, Fu Chengju called out desperately from behind. Dabao, Shun Ruihan, stopped in his tracks and glanced back at him one last time. By the way, Mr. Fu, to prevent you from continuing to harass Mommy with those outdated tactics, I just took the liberty of installing a tiny program in your personal computer. Now, all your calls, emails, and whereabouts are under my surveillance. If you dare to take one step closer to Mommy again, the last bit of your secret savings hidden in overseas tax havens will be instantly donated to the Stray Cat Protection Association. Xiaobao waved his chubby little hand from Jiyu Chunhan's arms. Big bad guy, remember to report to the investigation bureau on time. My brother has already sent the evidence to the police officers. Bye-bye. Fu Chengju slumped dejectedly onto the cement ground at the entrance of the kindergarten. Parents picking up their children pointed and whispered around him. Once an untouchable financial tycoon, he had now become the biggest laughingstock in the capital. Watching the retreating figures of our family of 4, a sense of loneliness, as if abandoned by the whole world, washed over him like a tide in the car. The eldest child, Shenruahan, calmly turned off the surveillance footage. Mommy, all the evidence regarding the Fu family's tax loopholes has been submitted. Tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, old Mrs. Fu will be formally arrested. I gently touched my son's face and gazed at the scenery rapidly receding outside the window. The net of revenge was tightening. Fu Chengju, this is just the beginning of you losing everything. In the deep autumn of the capital, the wind carried withered, fallen leaves, the heavy vermilion gate of the Fu family's ancestral home on this early morning was shattered by a series of urgent and cold knocks, breaking the last vestiges of tranquility. Madam Fu, you are suspected of multiple counts of bribery, embezzlement of others' property, and money laundering. Please come with us. Uniformed investigators filed in, shattering the stale scent of sandalwood that hung in the old mansion. Madame Fu was trembling as she held a cup of ginseng tea. Upon hearing the words, the cup clattered to the blue brick floor, shattering. Scalding tea splashed all over her feet, but she seemed completely unaware. How dare you? I am the matriarch of the Fu family. Chengju, save me, she shrieked hoarsely, her usual air of lofty authority utterly gone. However, the Chengju she called out to was currently in no position to save even himself. In front of the headquarters building of the Fu Group, it had long been surrounded by angry employees demanding unpaid wages and suppliers seeking repayment of debts. Fu Chengju sat in his office, facing a mountain of subpoenas piled before him. The once bustling office was now deserted, with not even a secretary left to pour water. When I pushed open the office door, I brought in a chilly autumn breeze. Fu Chengju suddenly looked up, and upon seeing me, a glimmer of nearly frantic light flashed in his withered eyes. Qingwu, you've come, you're here to save me, aren't you? Look, the old lady has been taken away, Su Miao is about to be sentenced to death, and all those who bullied you have faced retribution. Let's start over, okay? He stumbled toward me but was firmly restrained by the bodyguards brought by Jiyu Chenhan just 3 steps away. I looked at him coldly, as if he were a pile of non-recyclable trash. Fu Chengju, have you misunderstood something? I pulled a document from my Hermes handbag and placed it slowly in front of him. I came to see you off for the last time. It was a court enforcement order, because the Fu Group was insolvent. Shen's SK Venture Capital, as the largest creditor, had legally taken over all of Fu's real estate, including this building, as well as all the luxury cars and yachts under his name, and this, I crooked a finger, and Jiyu Chenhan threw an even thicker document in his face. That is a reissued copy of the divorce agreement. 3 years ago, I didn't have time to sign it before I jumped into the sea. Today, as Shen Man, I signed it on behalf of Lin Qingwu from 3 years ago. Fu Chengju, legally speaking, you are not only penniless now, but also a husband completely abandoned by me, Shen Man. Fu Chengju looked at the bold and powerful characters Shen Man on the agreement, trembling uncontrollably. Qingwu, you can't be so cruel, that was our child. Shut up, I snapped sharply, my gaze sharp as a blade. You don't deserve to mention the children. Dabao and Erbao have officially changed their surname to Jiyu. From now on, they will only have one father, and that is Jiyu Chenhan. Jiyu Chenhan promptly wrapped his arm around my shoulder, leaned down, and whispered in Fu Chengzhou's ear in an extremely low voice, Mr. Fu, I forgot to tell you, I've taken care of all your old friends in prison. All of Su Miao's embezzlement mess will ultimately be pinned on you. The legal representative, since you love Su Miao so much, why not go to prison and be her neighbor? No, Fu Chengju let out a desperate roar, like a trapped beast at that moment. 2. Police officers entered the office, and cold silver handcuffs were immediately locked around his wrists. Mr. Fu Chengju, new evidence has emerged regarding the asset loss of the Lin Group 3 years ago and the intentional murder case of MS, Lin Qingwu. Please come with us. As Fu Chengju was escorted downstairs, he happened to see a live broadcast playing on the large screen below. It was the strategic merger press conference of Shen's SK and the GU Group, with the background wall prominently displaying engagement ceremony of MS, Shen Man and Mr. GU Chenhan and launch ceremony of the Women's Mutual Aid Fund on the screen. I am radiant and captivating, holding GU Chenhan's arm, receiving blessings under the gaze of all. Meanwhile, he, once the king of the capital, now looks like a drowned dog, being shoved into a police car amidst the scorn of the crowd and rotten vegetable leaves. 1 month later, at the capital's first prison, Fu Chengju, dressed in a drab yellow prison uniform, stares at me from behind the thick bulletproof glass. In just 1 month, his once cold and handsome face has aged terribly, his hair has turned mostly white, and his eyes are disturbingly hollow. I came to see you because I want you to listen to something. I pressed the play button. The crisp laughter of Dabao and Erbao came through the speakers. Daddy GU, look at the snowman we built. Mommy said she'll take us to see the northern lights in the Arctic this winter. Qingwu, please, let me see the children. Fu Chengju frantically pounded on the glass, tears and snot smeared across his face. See them, I rose coldly, putting my sunglasses back on. Fu Chengju, you don't deserve to. I told them their biological father died 3 years ago on that rainy night under the Cross Sea Bridge. To them now, you're just a stranger, a criminal in prison. Oh, and by the way, Su Miao killed herself last night in the neighboring cell block. Congratulations, you're the only sinner left in this world. I walked out of the prison gate without looking back. The late autumn sun shone on me, carrying a long-lost warmth. I saw Jiyu Chenhan leaning against the car, waiting for me, holding a bouquet of my favorite white jasmine. Is it over? He asked gently. No. I looked at the blue sky and took a deep breath. Shen Man's life has just begun. The heavy prison gate closed behind me, forever locking the dirty, rotten past of the Fu family within the high walls. I have confirmed that the content of the later chapters in the outline does not jump ahead. The deep autumn in the capital quietly turned to winter after a cold snap. The downfall of the Fu family felt like a funeral for an old era, and I, Shen Man, was building a steel forest for women upon these ruins. The top-floor hall of SK Group's headquarters was hosting the grand celebration for the 3rd anniversary of the Manxing Times Women's Mutual Aid Foundation. Gone were the hypocritical comparisons typical of high society cocktail parties of the past, replaced instead by faces full of resilience and confidence. Among them were women who had faced workplace bullying, others who had been trapped in the quagmire of marriage, and now, they were all partners under the SK umbrella. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, holding a recently signed cross-border merger and acquisition deal. SK had officially acquired the core energy sector of the former Fu Group in a full buyout. From today onward, the name Fu Group would be completely erased from the capital's business landscape. President Shen, there are a few old relics downstairs who wish to see you, the secretary said, knocking on the door with a hint of mockery in her expression. They're the investment tycoons who used to be on brotherly terms with Fu Chengju. Hearing that we now hold the core patents, they've come to plead for a share of the pie. I sneered coldly and set down the Parker pen in my hand. 3 years ago, when I was running around trying to preserve the Lin family's legacy, these people wouldn't even let me through the front door, and behind my back, they even mocked me as a useless fool who only knows how to kneel. Let them wait in the lounge, they'll have to queue up according to the rules. SK doesn't deal in favors, only profits. At that moment, Jiyu Chenhan pushed the door open and entered. Today, he was wearing a minimalist black turtleneck sweater, layered under a dark grey cashmere coat. The coldness in his eyes and brows melted into a gentle warmth the moment he saw me. Behind him trailed 2 little shadows, Shen Ruihan and Shen Ruixing. Mommy, little Bao, Shen Ruixing, rushed over like a tiny cannonball, clutching a newspaper in his hand. Look, that mean grandma is in the newspaper. I took the newspaper, and in a small corner of the front page, there was an inconspicuous news item. The former matriarch of the Fu family, suspected of multiple serious crimes, has been stripped of her political rights and had all her illegal personal assets confiscated. Her application for medical parole due to illness has been rejected. For someone like Mrs. Fu, who cares so much about face, being in prison is probably worse than death. Mommy, this is the new algorithm I wrote for the foundation, said the eldest, Shen Ruihan, calmly handing over his tablet. It can automatically filter out urgent legal aid requests from women who are unable to speak up, and it's 300% more efficient than manual screening. I kissed my eldest on the forehead, my heart filled with pride. My children don't need to inherit the cold-blooded power games of the Fu family. They are learning how to use their wisdom to protect the vulnerable. Shen Man, Jiyu Chenhan walked to my side, naturally taking the newspaper from my hand and tossing it into the trash bin, then placed his hands on my shoulders. Tonight's International Women's Forum requires you to speak as the first Asian female chairperson. Are you nervous? Nervous? I raised an eyebrow, a hint of disdain for the world flashing in my eyes. Jiyu Chenhan, I'm not even afraid of death, so why would I fear a few microphones? 8 p.m., International Convention Center. Media from around the world aimed their cameras at the podium. I was dressed in a pristine white professional suit, sharp and commanding, with no trace of Lin Qingwu from 3 years ago. Ms. Shen, many people are curious about how you transformed from a vanished wealthy heiress into the business queen who now controls SK. Was there any behind the scenes support from the GU group in this process? A male reporter asked sharply, his words laced with deep-seated gender bias. The entire venue fell silent. Jiyu Chenhan sat in the first row below the stage, his expression unchanged. He didn't even show any anger. Because he knew that I no longer needed anyone to shield me from the storm, I smiled faintly, leaned forward, and locked eyes with the reporter. First, let me correct your wording. I am not a vanished heiress. I am Shen Man, who has returned. As for the support from the GU group, I paused, my tone playful. The business world is like a battlefield. Mr. GU and I are comrades fighting side by side, not in a relationship of dependence and subordination. If you believe a woman's success must be credited to a man, I suggest you go back and reread SK's financial reports from the past 3 years. The overseas channel revenue I've brought to the GU group is enough to buy the very newspaper you work for. A low murmur of laughter and enthusiastic applause rippled through the audience. The reporter flushed red and sat down in embarrassment. I stand here today not to condemn the past. I rose to my feet, my voice clear and resonant, reaching every corner of the hall. I am here to tell every woman trapped in darkness, marriage is not a safe harbor, and men are not saviors. Dignity is not won by kneeling and begging, it is earned by standing tall. The downfall of the Fu family was not due to revenge, but because they went against the tide, attempting to use their decaying power to stifle the awakening of women, and I merely gave a push to a wall that was already on the verge of collapse. On the large screen, the logo of Manxing Foundation flickered, a butterfly breaking free from its cocoon. As the speech concluded, I declined all dinner invitations and, holding Jiyu Chenhan's hand, walked out of the venue. The first snow of Beijing began to fall, delicate snowflakes settling on our shoulders. Monon, you look beautiful today, Jiyu Chenhan said softly. Only today. I tilted my head to look at him. He chuckled, then took a velvet box from his pocket and slowly knelt on one knee in the swirling snow. This was not a gesture of humiliation, but one of surrender and respect. Shen Man, I know you don't need a harbor, but I hope to be your guiding light. Let's not talk about dependence, only about the rest of our lives. Will you allow me to walk by your side as Shen Man's husband? I watched this man, who had always been aloof and detached, bow his noble head for me in the snow. I didn't answer immediately, but instead reached out to catch a snowflake. Jiyu Chenhan, I can agree to you, but I have one condition. Go ahead, from now on, at home, washing the dishes and tutoring our second child in math, both of these tasks are yours. Jiyu Chenhan smiled with a mix of helplessness and adoration, then stood up to place the understated yet one-of-a-kind diamond ring on my finger. In this chapter, I completely shed the label of Avenger. I will not only send my enemies to hell but also ascend to the throne in this bustling world. By the seaside on the outskirts of the capital, the setting sun bled like crimson, dyeing the layers of waves a poignant shade of orange-red. This was the place where I fell into the sea 3 years ago, the boundary between all nightmares and new beginnings. Beside the once jagged rocks now stands a sleek, modern white building, the Marine Environmental Protection and Rescue Center under the SK Group. I changed out of my crisp professional suit and put on a minimalist camel-colored cashmere coat, my long hair fluttering in the wind. 3 years ago, I felt overwhelming despair here. 3 years later, I stand here, with solid ground beneath my feet and an indestructible empire behind me. Mommy, look, the seagulls are catching little fish. Little Bao Shun Ruishing excitedly ran along the beach, followed by Big Bao Shun Ruihan, who looked helpless but carefully watched over him. Jiyu Chenhan walked over and gently embraced me from behind, his chin resting on the crook of my shoulder. His cool, woody scent felt especially comforting in the sea breeze. What are you thinking about? He asked softly, his warm breath brushing against my ear. Thinking, fate is truly ironic. I pointed to a section of guardrail not far away. 3 years ago, I thought jumping down would be the end. Back then, I believed that a single word from Fu Chengju could decide my life or death, and the rise and fall of the Lin family was my entire world. Looking back now, my perspective was truly narrow. Jiyu Chenhan tightened his arms around me, his voice tinged with relief after a narrow escape. I'm glad you jumped, and I'm glad I caught you. Man, you were never anyone's appendage, you are simply yourself. Just then, a violent coughing sound came from the distance, accompanied by the rustling of a broom sweeping across the ground. A hunched figure, dressed in an orange sanitation worker's uniform, was limping along as he cleaned up the trash left by tourists. He walked slowly, one leg seemingly severely injured, causing his steps to be uneven. The man looked up, just meeting our gaze. In that instant, the air seemed to freeze. It was Fu Chengju. He had been released from prison, or rather, he was granted early release due to good behavior and health reasons. The once aloof, noble, and powerful head of the Fu family, who could turn the world upside down with a flick of his hand, now had rough, dark skin, deep wrinkles etched at the corners of his eyes, and those once profound eyes now appeared so clouded that not a trace of vitality could be seen. He stared fixedly at me, then looked at Jiyu Chenhan beside me, and at the 2 exquisitely beautiful children running toward me. Ching, Miss Shun, he spoke, his voice broken like a leaky bellows. Not even daring to utter that old name again, he instinctively tried to take a step forward but stopped abruptly upon seeing Jiyu Chenhan's cold, stern gaze. He lowered his head, looking at his dirty sleeves and the broom in his hand, the deep-seated sense of inferiority making him almost unable to stand steady. Mr. Fu, it's been a long time, I said calmly, my tone devoid of any emotion, not even a trace of hatred, because when a person becomes truly powerful to a certain extent, the ants that once hurt her don't even have the right to stir any emotion in her. The children have grown taller. Fu Chengju looked at Shun Ruihan and Shun Ruishing, his eyes quickly turning red. Murky tears streaked across his aged face, leaving dirty trails behind. I'm sorry, I really am sorry. The eldest, Shun Ruihan, stopped in his tracks and coldly sized up this unfamiliar sanitation worker, his eyes showing no emotion. He took 100 yuan bill from his pocket and, as if dealing with any pitiful homeless person, gently placed it in Fu Chengzhou's garbage cart. Old man, it's getting cold, go buy yourself a cup of hot milk tea. The eldest's voice was clear. Yet it carried a distance that kept others 1,000 miles away. Fu Chengju stared at the banknote, feeling as if he had been struck by lightning. His own biological son stood right before him, yet treated him like a random passerby to be casually given alms. This heart-wrenching pain, more agonizing than the prison sentence he had endured years ago, drove him to the brink of madness. Hannah, let's go, Mommy. The banquet is about to start. Dabao took my hand and, without looking back, led me toward the helicopter landing pad not far away. I took one last glance at Fu Chengju. He stood in the afterglow of the setting sun, his orange vest appearing both glaring and insignificant. He watched our departing figures, his mouth opening slightly, yet no sound escaped. He once possessed everything, but with his arrogant and selfish heart, he pushed those treasures into the abyss with his own hands. For the rest of his life, he will rot in regret, haunted by the memory of kneeling in the pouring rain and the coldness of this sea. Every time he wakes from a midnight dream, the helicopter's rotor blades stirred up gusts of fierce wind. We ascended into the sky, overlooking the vast expanse of blue sea. Jiyu Chenhan grasped my hand, our fingers tightly interlocked. Mr. Shin, where are we heading next? He asked teasingly. I gazed at the city ablaze with lights on the distant horizon, where my career, my foundation, and the countless women I protect reside. To the highest point, I replied with a faint smile, my eyes as resolute as stars. Lin Qingwu had already sunk to the depths of the sea on that night 3 years ago. Now, I am Shun Man. I am the master of my own fate, the queen who no longer bows her head. This game is not just about winning, it's about telling the world, women must be strong and self-reliant, for the truth is revealed at the summit.